So our last speaker today, I think you're just going to be maybe a little bit blown away, because maybe it's something you haven't thought of before. He's an aerospace engineer, a pilot, a flight instructor, and with that kind of experience, Kyle Clark is really hoping to change the way that we fly. He's the founder and the CEO of Beta Technologies, and he and his team are working to decarbonize aviation with an all-electric, net zero aircraft and a cross-country network of charging infrastructure to support that. So their focus is on, understandably, safety, efficiency, and sustainability. They already have 2 multi-state missions and near daily test flights. Beta has actually already secured orders for its innovative electric aircraft from UPS, United Technologies, and Air New Zealand. So Kyle, by the way, also played in the NHL, right wing, fittingly, I think, for the Washington Capitals. So it's great to have him here. He came down from Vermont just for this event. So please welcome Kyle Clark.
All right. It's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me. And I'm just going to try and go quick. I know everybody wants to get out of here, but I'm going to tell a quick story, and maybe you take something away from it, maybe you don't. Just thrilled to be here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about electric airplanes. That intro was like way out of date, funnily enough. I heard 2 interstate missions. Now we're doing it like twice a week. And this is the building of an aerospace company. So I'm just going to rewind a little ways. Way back when, for as long as I can remember, I loved airplanes. And when I was about 16, 15 years old, I ran up to the airport and I helped these guys fix their airplanes to get rides in the airplane. And this isn't me, but this is this guy right here. Right before, he jumped in with me, and he did exactly what I did when I was that age. The first guy who took me up an airplane after fixing this airplane for a test flight, we got off the runway, he flipped it over upside down, he flew the canopy back, and he said, "We're just getting the M&Ms out." And we took off, and we did a whole aerobatic flight, and I was totally hooked. So I found something that I loved. It was flying. And I couldn't, every time my parents came to me and said, "What do you want for Christmas? What do you want for your birthday?" All I would say is an airplane. I just want an airplane. I want to go flying. I want an airplane. And everything I thought about was an airplane. So this is in high school. And funny enough, I wanted 2 things. There was this beautiful girl. Her name was Katie. She was funny, humorous, and I wanted to marry her, and I wanted to design and build airplanes. And I did both of those things, which is really, really fun. So this is him on the back end of that flight, and I hope that he gets inspired to do what I did. This project, this entire company, was my senior engineering project, interestingly enough. And at the time, I had this idea of reinventing the way that people would interface with an airplane and to reduce its overall emissions by increasing its efficiency, go hybrid, the first step. And it won, ironically, the thesis of the year. And I pitched it to everybody that would listen. And nobody would invest in my company. Everybody thought it was this crazy idea. And this is 20 plus years ago. And I kept pitching it. And during that time, I kept refining what I was pitching and massaging this idea. And finally, in 2017, fast forward 15 years from the first time that I pitched it, I'm in Philadelphia, and I'm pitching to this table of people on electric aviation. And this one gal in the audience says, "Who are you and where are you from?" And I said, "I'm Kyle from Vermont." And she goes, "Are you getting paid to be here?" And I'm like, "Oh, geez, I must sound like a real idiot." And I go, "No." She goes, "I can tell, because you're really excited about this electric airplane thing. We should talk." Well, that Friday, I went to her house after 18 hours together. She said, "I'll tell you what, go home, write down what you want to do, and send it to me." And after spending all this time together, I went home and I painted a watercolor. I wrote all over the watercolor. And I said, "This is what I want to do." And I sent it to her at 4 a.m. I slept for a couple hours. I went out in the garage. I was working on a motorcycle, and my wife comes out with a phone. And she goes, "You might want to check your text." And all it said is, "You're on." And I'm like, all right. Now, it was just me. I've got nobody with me doing this. I had started a bunch of power electronics business, doing things that were on the tangents of what I loved. But now I was on to go build an electric airplane. So fast forward 8 months later. 8 months. It's not a lot of time. A team of 8 of us designed, built, and flew the largest electric airplane to have ever flown in the world. We flew at 100 test flights, and it attracted a whole lot of attention, including somebody right down the street here. who is partners with a few people in the audience here. And they believed in the vision of designing, building, and flying an electric airplane. Well, after flying that, we realized that that was not a commercially viable product. That was something that would expose the benefits of electric propulsion, but also expose the detriments. You had these heavy batteries that just really weren't fit to fly big airplanes long distances. So in reflection, I started thinking about what are the key elements in first principle physics, and this teacher over here will probably appreciate this. Very first principle. How does an airplane fly? Well, it's got to push itself through the air, create lift without a lot of drag. So make the drag really low and make a lot of lift. So the lift over drag ratio has to be the maximum number. If you're going to put batteries on it, put high energy density batteries. We all know our phones are getting better and better over years, but that energy density has to be as maximum as it possibly can. And then leave a lot of extra weight on the airplane to put a lot of batteries on it. These are really not complicated things, right? And that's a low empty weight fraction, using material science and engineering to make a really light airframe. And the one a lot of people forget about is then convert that precious energy in the battery to thrust really efficiently. And I won't get into all this science here, but this airplane that we designed, built, and by the way, this is a big airplane. It looks big on the screen, but in real life, that tip to tip is almost that door to that door. It's a big airplane, 7,000 pounds, 50-foot wingspan, 44 feet long, 14 feet tall, carries 3,000 pounds of batteries, 15,000 little cells that we see, they're called 21700 cells like they're in a Tesla car, 15,000 cells, about 5 times as much energy as in a Tesla. We just flew this airplane 336 nautical miles on one charge, and I landed with 51 miles in the bank, because you got to always have reserves. That's like a long ways. That's sitting in that cockpit for 3 hours. It cost $17 in electricity. We were chasing it with a Caravan, which is a traditional gas-burning airplane, $700 of fuel in the Caravan. So now there's no green premium. The gentleman that was up here first, Brian, he educated us about wind turbines and offshore wind, and he said, look, it's less than the cost of the other sources of energy. That's really important. It makes the adoption really easy. We have enough to deal with. We're getting over that regulatory hump and the permitting humps and the technological humps. At the other side of it, it has to be sustainable and it has to be economically beneficial. So we are focused on making an environmentally sustainable, economically beneficial airplane, exploiting all the benefits of electric propulsion while respecting the detriments. I'm just going to point out one aerodynamic feature. You notice, so the way this works, by the way, those 4 propellers on the top, they lift the aircraft up off a nice little red circle like this. Once it's in the air, that pusher at the back starts pushing it forward, and as it goes through the air, about 30 seconds later, it's going fast enough that you can turn those rotors on the top off, and you stow them like little aerodynamic, javelins through the wind. And the thing flies for a couple hours, gets to where it's going, and it lands on a dot like this. The idea of infrastructure there is almost insignificant. You got a charger at either end, you got a dot. There's no roads, there's no development, there's no anything. You're using the Z dimension of the world like you've never used it before. It's magical. You took away the runway, you take away the fuel, and by the way, it's really quiet. You took away the noise. The 3 most annoying things about aviation are gone. So that's why I'm excited about the product. But then you got to go do something meaningful. The first application is going hospital to hospital. Really high value cargo needs to go to a vertical landing pad. So our first customer is United Therapeutics, like the intro said. And they make organs and blood products and pharmaceuticals. UPS has ordered a bunch of these. They ordered 150 of these things to move packages. If you ship something here today, speaking of energy efficiency, to Buffalo, New York, you know where that package goes? It goes over to Newark, goes down to Philly, goes down to Louisville, goes out. It goes like 1,400 miles when it could go direct to Buffalo. Guess what? In a few years, it's going to go direct to Buffalo with 0 emissions. It's really an exciting time to be working in transportation. Aviation right now, this is a theme of stats, I think, here today, is 9% of all transportation. Transportation is the biggest producer of carbon emissions. It's 9%. Funny thing is, as we learned, cars are going electric. We hit this tipping point that the gentleman just spoke about. Marine's going electric and getting more efficient. All other forms of transportation, motorcycles going electric. Aviation isn't going electric yet. Well, it's on our watch it will. It's not going electric yet. And if we don't do anything about it, it will be the #1 producer of carbon emissions by 2035. Because everybody else is going electric, and we, as aviators, operate in this cognitive dissonance of sustainability because there is no option. Well, we're creating an option. So this airplane takes off and lands vertically. It flies like an airplane. This is a special picture to me because this is flying over Huffman Prairie. Anybody know what Huffman Prairie is? It's the first place the Wright brothers did a full circuit of an airport. So we're flying across the country here, flying right over the place the Wright brothers did this. And this is flying over the Adirondacks, just north of here. So what we've created, this airplane, and I'm going to bring this back full circle. I love aviation. I love flying. I fly 3 to 4 airplanes a day, helicopters, parasails, gliders, airplanes. Every chance I get to fly with somebody, I do. We had 83 interns last summer. I flew with nearly every single one of them in an aerobatic plane. It's something I love to share with people. I care about climate change. I care about sustainability. It's something that actually didn't really come to me until I was about 30 years old, and I was like, holy shit, I really do, excuse me, holy cow, I really do care about this. And I said, I've got a place now I can apply what I love in a place that I care about. And putting those two things together, and by the way, then surrounding yourself with a lot of people who care about sustainability, care about aviation, maybe have this insatiable desire of technology. And by the way, if you ever interview at our company, all I do is listen for those 3 things. Can they not get enough technology? Do they love aviation? Do they love sustainability? Do they care about the environment? And by the way, they don't need all 3 of those. They just need 2 of them. Because mathematically, if everybody in the company has 2 out of those 3, then you share a passion with everybody in the company. And when you align yourselves with common passions, complementary skill sets, you get an energetic culture of drive and perseverance. Again, like it took me 15 years of pitching this before somebody said, oh yeah, that sounds good. That persistence of getting it done to make sure people heard it. And people ask me often, like, did you think it would grow to a company? You know, they gave me $1 billion to go do this. It's crazy. They trusted me with that money. I ever think they would do that? I was like, yeah, of course I did. I've been telling you that for 15 years. Come on. And now we're actually doing it. And with that money, and one other cool thing here is we're not just doing it on the airplane. We broke ground 1.5 years ago on the largest net zero building east of the Mississippi up in Vermont. Solar power, geothermally heated and cooled to build our airplanes in. This is almost 500,000 square feet when it's complete to produce our airplanes without using any energy that's not produced on site, which is really, really important to our overall impact on the environment. So this is a picture of, we've got 500 direct employees, about 1,500 indirect contractors working to fulfill this vision and create aviation. The culture is strong. The people are all driven towards something. This picture is special because we just graduated from a research and development ticket to a market survey ticket on our way to full certified commercial operations. Market survey means you fly, like we just did. Actually, we flew down to Westchester not too long ago. Did a demo flight down there with electric airplanes in Class Bravo airspace where you're working at the convenience of the controllers. The controllers tell you to go up, they tell you to go down, they tell you left, go right, give you a heading, tell you to hold. You've got to have a really reliable, safe product. To do that over a whole bunch of people, which takes thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of test, and do it at the convenience of a controller, which means you don't get to choose where you're going. You're going to go where they tell you to go, and do it right in the New York City area. So this is a cool picture for me because it expresses that graduation. So that's all I got. Find something you love what you do, and have a purpose behind it and something that you care about. You put those 2 things together. The energy at the company, the energy that is behind this is almost unstoppable. And as a visitor yesterday, it probably would be inappropriate for me to say, huge potential customer came yesterday and they said, wow, Textron, better watch out. And that was a huge compliment. By the way, Textron owns Cessna and Beechcraft and Hawker, and that's the position we're in. And I think the whole world should watch out because we're nipping on the heels of fuel-burning aircraft. We'll be nipping on the heels of single aisle and then wide bodies. And in our lifetime, we're going to create an electric aviation ecosystem. Thank you. I don't know if I get any questions. Yes, sir.
Other geographies here.
Yeah, the U.S., the people in the U.S. are, I think, pretty excited about it. I mean, Jill Biden came to our place the other day, and she came up to the airplane, and she's like, I had no idea that we were this far. This is really exciting. She's excited. I testified to Congress the other day, and they were excited. But the regulatory environment that we have in place is a massive impediment to innovation. And this is why I was testifying to Congress, talking about reauthorization, where to put our efforts in the regulatory environment. The FAA, many regulatory bodies, they are not incentivized to adopt new technologies. Unfortunately, we just signed an agreement in the UAE, and this is over in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, to start service, right? And I wish we were doing that in the US. So to answer your question is not good enough, but there's a lot of momentum, and like listening to this today, there's a lot of like awareness that this is really important. I think people are growing in awareness of how pollutive traditional aviation is, and we have to do something about it. Like, safety is all relative. When the thing we're attacking is climate change, and the mere existence of our world, we got to take risks to incorporate technologies, or we got to be inconvenienced, however you want to call it, to adopt those. So I think our regulatory mindset has to change. But great question. Any other questions? Uh-oh, am I going to need a chemistry question?
Well, I just want to say that, I appreciate learning so much today about all the presenters. And this shows that the world is going towards really sustainable energy and development. And, if you don't follow that, any country that's not following that is going behind. And I see that in Senegal, they just, in the western countries of Africa, they're just starting to discover a lot of oil there. And they're very excited about discovering oil. I'm like, oh my God, this is not probably, after watching this, that's the wrong direction. But so thank you everyone for presenting, and thank you for talking to us about your new innovation in aviation. And I just see that very interesting. And I just have a question about your cockpit, because one day I visited a cockpit inside a plane, and I was like, this is not the type of job for me, because it was so small, I was squeezing myself, and I see he's a very tall guy, So is your cockpit big or small? Like, how do you fit in there?
That's a great question. So by FAA standards, we have visibility, safety, egress for the 5th percentile to the 95th percentile, and that's about right here. I'm 255 pounds, 6'8", right? So our cockpit is quite spacious. I put a flight helmet on, and I still fit in there, and that's by design. But it's a trade, right? Frontal area on an airplane slows you down. You put a big cockpit up there, and it's not as efficient, unfortunately. But I want to fly it. So, but I want to address the first thing that you said, and the motivation. And there was this interesting thesis that I presented not too long ago, which is, we have businesses and technologies and things that have, no growth. Some things are declining. And then people start talking about linear growth. And then they're like, oh, I got a business with exponential growth. Well, how about we start something with vertical growth? And how do we do that? And the best example I could think of was the mud flap industry. When all of a sudden the Department of Transportation said all trucks must have mud flaps on. And pa-ching, the mud flap industry just appeared. And it was huge. And everybody needed mud flaps. And they wore out. And we need to replace the mud flaps. And every new OEM had to put mud flaps on their trucks. And what if we were to think about a regulation that demanded electric aviation? We're not going to get it from the regulators. Like, I heard somebody say this morning, if you appreciate law or sausages, don't watch how it's made. And in the case of law or regulation, it's a mess to make that stuff. But social regulation can do that. If we all agree that it is socially unconscionable to go and press buy on Amazon and trigger this whole series of events of airplanes and trucks and everything so that I can get my package the next day. And meanwhile, my carbon footprint, I mean, I'm not even thinking about it, but if I do think about it, is huge because of me pressing buy. And you say, no, no, no. I want a little button that says 0 carbon emissions on that package that's coming to my house. You fly it in an electric plane, you bring it in an electric car, and you say, that's the only way I'm going to operate. And you know, this whole shaming idea is maybe a little bit too aggressive, but and this is a prototype thought, by the way. It's the first time I'm really kind of articulating it. What if we were to say it is unacceptable, folks, to have that gas-powered truck pull up to your car, to your house with a package? It's unacceptable. Don't be seen doing it. And then all of a sudden, like all of that transportation, you know, UPS is the #1 fuel user in the United States. Commercial behind the military. Commercial behind the military. And we all think about, I'm not going to take that flight to California. What about all those times you push by, right? I think we need to impose a social regulation on how we interact with the world. And if we do it, I see you looking at your watches. I'm done. I won't rant on my prototype thought anymore. Thank you very much.
I kind of like the prototype thought, and I like that we were all here for the unveiling of it. So that's a great way for us to end, and just a reminder that one idea can lead to so much change. Whether it's making a change on the local level and seeing it grow, whether it's seeing your own idea grow and then ultimately end up in the skies, it is limitless what we all have the possibility to do. And being here today, taking in all of this information, seeing and hearing about this innovation, I hope that you leave truly inspired. A massive thank you to everybody who was here today, who spent their time and their energy putting this together. Maxwell has done just a remarkable, remarkable job. So thank you all. Have a great afternoon.